16 nations, 10 races, 1 championship. It is time to fly your flag high. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs begin. We're also going to talk about all the racing action from Indianapolis next week, being the last race on the Xfinity Series before their playoffs start. And of course, we're going to talk Truck Series racing. Corey Huffnagel, Chris Burns, this is the C+J Speedway Review. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the C+J Speedway Review. My name is Chris Burns. Once again, G.I. Jabroni from the Loki and Jabroni Show, coming at you hot on YouTube on a Wednesday night, audio only via Anchor, iTunes, and wherever you steal your favorite podcasts from. The man across the screen from me, the one and only go-kart champion of the world, his name is Corey Huffnagel. Corey, you've got to be doing good today, my brother. How are you?
I am doing pretty well, and speaking of which, there is a possibility I might be doing a go-karting event on December 1st at the new Foxwoods go-karting place, which just opened a couple weeks ago. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I also have my team shirt, Loud and Proud, and even though it's not in the playoffs, even though it's a fictional movie, but great racing we saw this weekend in Indianapolis. I mean, the Xfinity race went awesome, and then the Cup race, I couldn't even think of, way better, season finale, regular season finale than to have it at Indy. And, from what I thought was, the racing was going to be boring, but the last 5 laps, turned out to be pretty interesting, no question about it.
Oh, sure. And I can go back to going to Richmond in 2004 when that was the last race of the inaugural chase for the championship, which is now moved on to just the NASCAR playoffs, and watching Jeremy Mayfield just wheel his way around that track and sneak into the playoffs by the most small of margins. And there's a Jeremy Mayfield tie-in to a plug that I'm going to make in just a few minutes. But I'll never forget him winning that race, making just enough points to be in the chase for the Nextel Cup.
Yeah.
Before it became the Sprint Cup, before it became the Maxi Pad Cup, and now the Monster Energy Cup. The last race of the year always brings excitement, and Indy was no different. What a great race. And we're ready to break it all down for you. But first, we have news and information as only we can bring to you. And Corey, do you have any news stories for us that we should cover before we talk about racing at Indy?
All right, so pretty much in silly season news, it was announced a few days ago that Jamie McMurray will not be in the one car in 2019. So it looks like Kurt Busch is apparently going to Chip Ganassi Racing if it is official, which I think it will be. And then also there is also rumors saying that Ryan Newman might be going to Roush Fenway Racing and possibly bringing up Daniel Hemrick full-time in the Cup Series within the next year or two. So I would probably say that if, Ryan Newman does go to Roush Fenway, that's going to be a really big change because, my question is Roush Fenway still going to have 2 cars or are they going to have a 3-car team? And secondly, who's going to replace somebody in the 6 car? Like, let's say, if you put Ryan Newman in the 6, that would put Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth out without a ride. So then those guys would have to search for a ride in 2019. But you just talk about Ryan Newman. I mean, the last time he won a race was back at Phoenix a year ago, and this was a guy back then that they used to call him the Rocket Man whenever he would just blow by the field in qualifying and win the pole every time. And I would say he was consistent, but then yet again, he was one of those drivers that that he would just hung around the back all day, and then he would just surge up at the front near the end.
Mm-hmm. And Ryan Newman was one of those guys, like when we mentioned I know it was last week or the week before, we talked about the 2014 playoffs where when Harvick won the Cup, Ryan Newman was right there. He finished second, and he was a threat. I mean, nobody saw Newman coming. He snuck into the playoffs. He finished well enough to get to the Final Four and then gave Harvick a real run for his money up through and including those last 5 laps until Harvick got a little bit of a cushion and drove his way to his first and hopefully first of many Cup Series championship trophies. There's so many, we go back to Winston, Nextel, Sprint, Monster. I'm afraid next year it's going to be like the Spam Cup, which I wouldn't be upset with.
Right.
But let's be honest, we got to get a sponsor that stays for more than a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, Ryan Newman in a Roush car is a fantastic thing to think about, because it doesn't matter what you put Ryan Newman in. The Fords, the Dodges with Penske was great. The Chevys of RCR, great. And now moving forward, if he goes to Roush, I believe Roush is running Fords right now.
Yeah.
So back in a Ford, back in a car he knows how to wheel, back in a body style and an engine package and all of this that he knows what he's doing with. If that's the case and Ryan Newman is going to Roush, I see it as a 2-car operation. I don't see Matt Kenseth going on with a full-time gig. I think he still swaps seat time with Trevor Bayne because there's a learning curve. And we said it before that Trevor Bayne just hasn't picked up yet, that he needs to get squared away, because here's a kid that came out of the box, out of nowhere, wins Daytona some years ago, and has amounted to a hill of dirty dog poop since. Having Matt Kenseth in that car to give information and whatnot of the handling of the car, of this, of that, and the other thing, and to give guidance to Trevor Bayne has probably been immeasurably wonderful for a guy like Trevor Bayne. Does it go to next season where they're still swapping seat time? Maybe. But of course, Trevor Bayne had a health issue that kept him out of that seat for quite a while. So there's a lot of factors that go into what's the future of Trevor Bayne. I think you'll see Roush Fenway put a second car out on the track. Absolutely.
Plus not to mention Matt DiBenedetto. He's also going to be a free agent starting next year as well. So that's also going to be a big question of where is he going to go in 2019.
I know I said that I would love to see Martin Truex in the 41, but no, I've changed my mind. Put Guido in the 41. My boy, Matt DiBenedetto. Sentimental favorite. Just a really good guy. I want to see that. Because if you look, putting Eric Almirola in the 10 has been a plus for Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
You have fantastic equipment. You have fantastic engine people, fantastic body people. You have great leadership in the ways of, right now, Kevin Harvick, Clint Bowyer, Kurt Busch on your team. So if Kurt Busch is truly out and you don't put Truex in the 41, the next best thing, and maybe the better thing, would be take the young upstart, Matt DiBenedetto, put him in the 41, have him wheel that car around, and I guarantee you, this year and last year, I think DiBenedetto has collected maybe 3 or 4 top 10s.
4 top 10s.
Okay, so I guarantee if it is DiBenedetto that goes to the 41, by the May Charlotte race, you will see Matt DiBenedetto have 4 top 10s in one season if he's wheeling around a Stewart-Haas race car.
Yeah, see, for me, I do think he deserves to get a top ride, because you look at it, the first time he ever finished in the top 10 was at Bristol in 2016, and when he finished 6th, and I thought, this was pretty much a kid that was driving for BK Racing at the time, even though now BK is pretty much underfunded or whatever it is and so forth. But then you go back to the Daytona race in July, where he ends up finishing, I believe, in 7th or so. And you just look at it, when he finished 7th that night, that's when I thought, okay, he finished in the top 10 yet again. Now this is pretty much the part where team owners are going to be looking at him. And now with the whole silly season going around, it's going to be interesting to see where DiBenedetto goes. Now, I do want to see him get a top ride because he deserves it. I probably say with the 41 team, that one is going to be kind of questionable because, they're going to be questioning, saying, okay, do we bring Cole Custer up to the 41 because he's been in the Xfinity Series the last 2 years. He's only driven a few Cup races this season. So I would say if DiBenedetto doesn't get the Stewart-Haas ride, I do want to see him go down to Xfinity and get the Junior Motorsports ride and replace Elliott Sadler in the one.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. Fantastic idea on your part.
Yeah.
Any other news and information you want to bring to the people before we dive into Indianapolis?
Well, there's not that much big news going on, but other than that, we're just getting ready for Vegas.
Well, we do have some big news, but it's not C+J Speedway review news. But if you are a sports fan, this is big news. This, in my eyes right now, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, is this week's Sports Illustrated. Pay no attention to the Penn State Nonickery on the front. Nobody likes Penn State. Nobody cares. But inside, there's an article called Fighting Back about 3 young ladies who were Taekwondo champions who unfortunately were sexually assaulted and molested by one of their coaches. Next Tuesday night, live on the YouTube channel and free for anyone who picks up the Loki and Jabroni show on audio only. 7 p.m. The young lady in the middle, and I'm going to bring her picture back right up here. That's her right there, Mandy Malone. One-time world champion, one-time World Cup champion, one-time Continental champion, 3-time Open tournament wins, and 19-time medalist is going to be on the Loki and Jabroni show to talk about this article in Sports Illustrated. If you have a daughter, if you have a wife, a girlfriend, if you have any young female athlete in your life that trusts their coaches like we all do. I've coached girls softball for the last several years. Those girls trust you. Those girls look up to you. And what those young ladies went through. Mandy is 37 now. This all happened to her when she was between the ages of 14 and 19.
Jesus.
Absolutely ridiculous. And it's the first audio interview she's doing since the Sports Illustrated article, which, again, it's a fantastic read, but it's also very disturbing. We're all looking forward to talking to Mandy. And if you know anybody, again, who's a sports fan, a Taekwondo enthusiast, or just someone who is the parent, loved one of a young lady between the ages of, say, birth and 18 years old, this is an interview you do not want to miss. Next Tuesday night, Loki and Jabroni show. Show starts at 6:30. The interview will start at 7 by phone. I implore you, please, please, please check it out. Support us. Support this show, C+J Speedway Review, by listening to that, and support Mandy. She's just a really great human being, and she deserves to have her story told to as many people as she can.
That's awesome.
So moving forward, we were in Indianapolis this weekend. Rained out Saturday, rained out Sunday. Monday, we had a fantastic doubleheader that Corey didn't get to see live, but Chris did because he got a rare Monday off. So let's talk about the Xfinity Series race. Justin Allgaier comes away with a big win. Corey, tell us what you saw and what you thought of this race.
So I only got to see the finish of both races on Monday, but going to the Xfinity race on Saturday, Monday.
You're killing me, kid. You're the stat guy.
Yes. I'm a little bit off. I was just at a Sox game last night, and I didn't get back till late this morning. But
did they win?
They won actually 7-2.
Who'd they play?
They played the Blue Jays.
Not bad. Okay, you get a pass. Go ahead.
All right. So, anyways, so watching this race on Saturday, again, it looked as if it was pretty much a Daytona or Talladega type of race because the Xfinity Series brought their aero package, and I think it was the same aero package that they ran at Michigan back in June. So going to the final laps of the race, I saw the 2 teammates of Justin Allgaier and Tyler Reddick. They were 1 and 2. And for the last couple laps, it looked as if, Reddick was going to make a move on the inside or the outside whatsoever. So I'm watching the finish right before my lunch break starts. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if he wants to go to the outside, somebody has to go to the outside and go with him, because if he goes to the outside by himself, he's not going to have the help that he needs. But there was one point where, Reddick gave Allgaier a bump, which pretty much at super speedway racing, you get the bump draft and so forth whatsoever. But what a win that Justin Allgaier had. But what a win that Justin Allgaier had on Monday. And thinking about it now, it just pretty much says to me that, we're already seeing a preview of what's going to happen in the playoffs, and pretty much it's going to come down between Justin Allgaier and Christopher Bell for this championship. But how about the end of stage one, where it came down to like a 4-wide finish, and I guess John Hunter Nemechek won the first stage, and I remember I saw the finish of that, and I was just like, this is something that I think IndyCar would do, or the Indy Lights would do at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But a 4-wide finish at Indy, I've never seen anything like that. But we've had some good finishes in stage one and stage two, and I know Hemrick edged out Christopher Bell in stage two as well. But great racing at Indy. I'm really happy, that the Xfinity Series got their aero package, like they did at Michigan and so forth. So hopefully, they can have an aero package not only in Xfinity, but in the Cup Series for not only Indianapolis, but most of the other racetracks in between.
Right. And going back to that stage one, I remember as I'm watching the race and seeing those cars door to door in that 4-wide, just going to the line. They showed a clip of a particular lap at some race years ago where they went 4 and almost went 5 wide at Indianapolis. And just that wide racing surface allows for that. As much as I dislike Pocono, that front stretch at Pocono also lends itself to 3, 4, almost 5 wide racing going to the stripe. It was exciting to watch. It kind of reminded me why I love NASCAR as much as I do, because what you saw were 4 hungry drivers. And again, people can take a dump on the stage racing all they want. It has made it more exciting. And if you disagree with me, you better bring some more fact other than, oh, well, it's just an excuse for, TV ads and people to go get popcorn. No, they all came up running heat races at their local tracks.
Yeah.
We have a couple tracks here in Connecticut. They run heat races all the time. People don't complain about that, but when you bring it to the forefront, to the highest level of racing that you have here in America, which is the NASCAR Monster Energy Truck Series. I'm sorry, NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Truck Series. You're basically bringing the roots back to the people. And I loved it. I was skeptical at first. Now I'm a believer. And I will stand behind this as long as I live, which may not be very long from what I hear. Anyway, to see Justin Allgaier wheel that car as hard as he did and coming to the end of that race, thinking that there was that opening, like you mentioned, where he could have lost that race, that little bump and run. That bump draft helped him rather than hurt him. And when those two cars got together just in the slightest, I thought Allgaier is going to lose this race and he is going to be hot. It actually helped him. It didn't hurt him. And when you look at a track like Indianapolis, which is built like a big rectangle, those front stretches, and even in the turns, when you come out of one, you have a short chute, then you go into 2, then you have that long backstretch. Then you go into 3, you have the short chute. Then you come out of 4, you have the long straightaway. That you can carry so much speed, and if you get a bump in the corner, you're actually gaining speed. That bump and run works at Bristol. The bump and run works at New Hampshire. The bump and run works at Martinsville. The bump and run doesn't work in Indianapolis, and I think we saw Justin Allgaier take advantage of that this weekend. And I was cheering. I'm never one to cheer watching an Xfinity race. But boy, was I rooting for Justin Allgaier for more than one reason. One, because I said last weekend, this is the Xfinity Series right now is a Justin Allgaier world. Everyone else is just living in it. And 2, he was my lock. So I was cheering my face off. It was fantastic to watch. So congratulations to Justin Allgaier.
What about the moment that Ryan Preece had near the end of the race where he hit the tire barrier coming off it too?
That was scary.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Oh, I flashed back to guys like Terry Labonte, guys like Rusty Wallace. Who was the guy? I can't remember his name. John Andretti had a tire wall incident, but it was at a road course. The tire wall is fantastic, but it doesn't give you the same give as a safer barrier.
Right.
It was just scary, and to see him walk away from that, your heart goes back into your chest. It was up here in my throat. I was just like, oh dear God, please let him be okay. To see him walk away from that, Ryan Preece is a future champion. Let's not mince words here. We said it when the day we first met was at the Xfinity race that
Hmm.
Ryan Preece came in second. I believe it was second to Ryan Newman. Am I right?
No, it was second to Kyle Busch in the Xfinity race.
You're right. My mistake. I'm so used to Ryan Newman going up to New Hampshire and winning everything, from the modifieds to the Xfinity to the Cup. But you're right. It was Kyle Busch, and Ryan Preece showed me a lot. And when we started this, I spoke about this is a kid that you watch 2, 3 years from now, he's going to be on the Cup level. He's going to have a top level ride, and he's going to be winning races. I'm so glad it all didn't end for him in Indianapolis because that was a hard hit.
Yeah, and thank goodness he was all right too, because that just pretty much goes to show you that how NASCAR does a great job when it comes to safety, and especially when you have safer barriers not only on the outside of the racetrack but on the inside of the racetrack as well. But one tire wall moment that I want to share was back in, I think it was like 2009, where Sam Hornish Jr. hit the tire barrier and his car kind of like flung from the tire
Oh,
barrier all the way to the racetrack, and then I think like 2 or 3 cars got collected like after that. So at one point, and this was
was
at Watkins,
was he in
yeah,
the 77 at that point, or was he in the 12?
he was in the 77. Yeah. So he was in the 77 at the time. And at that point, Watkins Glen pretty much had like grass, like where the tire barrier is. So if anybody would slide off the racetrack into the grass, they would pretty much slide right into the tire barrier, and there's like literally nothing you could do. So I guess the track, what they did a few years later was, now it's all pretty much pavement instead of grass, when it comes to road courses and so forth. But yeah, it was a hard hit for Ryan Preece, and glad that he was all right. And like you said, I think this kid's going to be a future champion in the Xfinity and the Cup Series. No question about it.
Sure thing, and I'll look forward as much as I've changed my stance where I say, hey, when Harvick goes, this is my guy. I've changed that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I can see myself rooting for Ryan Preece as long as he's, driving for a team with integrity. Not that there's a lot of teams on the Cup Series that don't have integrity. There are some that I dislike for a plethora of reasons, but the kid has something. The kid has integrity. The kid has gumption. He has
Mm,
drive. He has passion, and that's what you want in a race car driver.
absolutely.
So why don't you give us the finishing order, and we'll go into the picks, and after the picks, we will break down the points on the Xfinity Series.
All right. So Justin Allgaier ends up winning the race. Tyler Reddick comes home in second. Ryan Blaney, the pole sitter, comes home in third. Excuse me. Chase Elliott comes home in fourth. Daniel Hemrick fifth. Matt Tifft in sixth. Christopher Bell seventh. Austin Dillon eighth. Chase Briscoe ninth. And Brandon Jones rounds out the top 10. So other notables, you have Ryan Reed in 11th. You have Ross Chastain in 12th. You have Jeremy Clements 14th. Alex Labay in 19th. Ryan Truex 22nd. John Hunter Nemechek in 25th. Ryan Preece 28th. Cole Custer 29th. Michael Annett 31st. Ty Dillon 33rd. Austin Cindric 34th. Elliott Sadler 35th. Brandon Hightower 37th. And, of course, Jeff Green in 40th.
Oh, how did we not see that coming? Jeff Green was in the race.
Yeah,
Jeff
he was
Green.
probably a starting park, I guess.
Jeff Green. This is a personal message from Chris Burns, a.k.a. Jabroni, from the C&J Speedway Review, from the Loki and Jabroni Show. Jeff Green, you had a fantastic run. It is time to hang up your racing shoes. It is time to put the helmet to the side. It is time for you to realize that you just ain't got the sauce anymore. Start and park is just wasting a spot that some other young upstart can take and make a career for themselves. But you are taking it as a past champion, as a past winner, as a past, I don't know, somebody who was relevant. Jeff Green, it's time to start the second half of your life and park your butt on the couch. That's the only start and park you should do going forward. My name is Chris Burns, and I approve this message.
That's awesome.
All right, so let's get to the picks real quick. Corey, I'm going to give you the option. Do I start with you or do I start with me?
Let's start with you.
Let's start with me. Okay, well, I took Justin Allgaier as my lock. He finished first. I took Christopher Bell as my sleeper. He finished 7th. That's a total of 8. You divide that by 2. My average finish for the week was 4.
Mm.
Corey took Austin Dillon as his sleeper. He finished 8th. He took Elliott Sadler as his lock. He did not finish 8th. He finished 35th. That's a total of 43. You divide that by 2, and your finish this week was 21.5, making me the Xfinity champion of the world for a change. I don't know how. I don't know why. But, congratulations to me.
Congrats.
So now, with 1 week left to go on the Xfinity Series regular season, let's hear those points.
All right, so Justin Allgaier has the point lead by about 49 points over Cole Custer. Then you have Christopher Bell with about 52 points behind in third. Daniel Hemrick is 55 points behind in fourth. Elliott Sadler, top 5, 69 points behind. Then you have Tyler Reddick, who is 212 points back in sixth. Brandon Jones, 230. Matt Tiff, 243. Ryan Truex, 264. Ryan Reed, 358. Ross Chastain, in 373. And, of course, Austin Cindric holds the 12th and final spot with about 391 points behind.
Austin Cindric was a guy we talked about way early on.
Yeah.
When he was in the top 10, and now he has fallen just a tad bit, and he's holding down that last spot. Going into next week in Vegas, do you see trouble for the Cindric team, or do you see him rising above and clinching his spot in the playoffs?
Yeah, see, I probably think about it. He's crashed out, I think, the last 3 races. Well, the other one at Road America was an engine failure, but the last 2 races he ends up crashing out. But you just look at his career so far. I mean, it hasn't been really like the best season for him, but I think if you look at it, like 2 out of the first 3 races, he ends up crashing. And then some of the races, he finished either like 30th. And quite frankly, he's been consistent. But I just look at it right now. I just think, if he ends up having a bad run, that's it. He's out of the playoffs. And plus, he's only up by like 57 points ahead of Michael Annett for the 13th spot and so forth. But I think if you just look at it, I know he's in the Penske ride this weekend. So I would have to say that if Cindric wants to make the playoffs, he has to run consistent this weekend. Otherwise, he's just going to have to win because, now it's Vegas. We're 1 race before the playoffs. And, I would say that if Cindric's out, he's going to have to focus on next year because I would have to say, they might have brought him up to Xfinity way too early because I know last year he was in the Truck Series for 1 full season. Yeah, he wins the race. He goes to the championship 4, but I think if you look at it, now that he's up at the big level, he's racing for Roush Fenway and Penske. I mean, yeah, he's had some good runs, but I really expected him to run better.
And one of the things you mentioned was Michael Annett. And if Michael Annett were to sneak a win this weekend, and I don't want to say it like it's a bad thing, Michael Annett, all these guys, with the exception of Jeff Green, have an equal opportunity to win every single week. If Michael Annett sneaks that win and pushes Austin Cindric to the side and he doesn't make it, that could be devastating to that young driver's psyche. And we've talked about Jimmy Johnson on the Cup Series. There was a very real danger that Jimmy Johnson was not going to go to the playoffs if somebody underneath him won. And as it plays out, we'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But, for a 7-time champion, well, he can get past that and he can move on. When you're a young upstart and you've been driving your heart out and then somebody wins and you get pushed out by the win, the points, what have you, there's an equal thing here. It can either be motivation for next season or it can be devastating and never recover from it. Austin Cindric was someone we talked about all season. He was hovering in that top 10. We all wanted to see him do well. And then bad luck, like you said, the last several races, Austin Cindric was always bottom half of the field. I think Cindric needs to win this race this weekend. Absolutely, 1,000%. When we get to our picks, you're going to see how much I want Austin Cindric to win this race. So, we got the points. Let's move on to, what was it, the Big Machine Vodka Brickyard Gimmick Schnibitzfernum.com.
Yeah.
Did I get that name right? I made that up as I went along.
The Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard.
Okay, fair enough. And what an exciting race that was. You want to make a statement going into the playoffs? Brad Keselowski made a statement going into the playoffs. Not only did he bring Penske their first victory at the Brickyard, am I doing this right, in a Cup car?
Yes.
He basically catapulted himself into prime position. When we talk about the points in just a little while, Brad Keselowski went from middle of the road Jones to I'm a contender right in the heart of the matter.
Mm.
And he wheeled that car tremendously. Watching that race was it was a thing of beauty. There wasn't a lot of dust ups. There weren't a lot of crazy crashes, except for the one that Bubba Wallace was in. And Corey's going to take us through that in just a minute.
Yeah.
But there, other than, say, Martin Truex's issue where something broke on his car and it busted a bunch of stuff, totally out of his control. But there wasn't a lot of what Indianapolis racing has been when it was in early August, where you saw dust ups, you saw crashes, this was a really, in my opinion, a really clean race.
And then not to mention, the weather-wise too, because like every time you go to Indianapolis in July, it's like so hot, it's humid, and drivers are literally just sweating their guts out, no question about it. But you go there in September, I think the average temperature, I think it's like in the 60s and 70s and so forth. But I
lived in that area, so yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but there was one part in the race where I guess the two team did a 4-tire pit stop right before the last caution came out, and then right when they went back to green, I guess there were some guys that didn't pit for tires, and I guess Brad was the only guy that had 4 tires, and then I think in the closing laps you saw him charging up the field, and then he battled the lead with Denny Hamlin in the closing laps, and the part where they ended up touching like near the white flag, I thought these guys are going to wreck because it's pretty much the last race of the regular season. Everybody wants a win, and not to mention, everybody wants to get points, to get into the playoffs, no question about it.
And their pitch strategy, the number 2 team and Brad Keselowski, their pitch strategy worked so well. And of course, when I'm watching a race, now that we're doing this show, I look at 3 things. I look at Harvick, obviously, being a Harvick fan.
Yeah.
I look at the top 3. Whoever is in the top 3, I want to know what their strategy is going forward. I always have the TV on, and I have these little earbuds in, listening. I'm going through the scanners on my NASCAR app at $9.99 a month. You can't beat that. And if we can get them as a sponsor on the show, I'll pimp it more. But for right now, I'll pay my $9.99 a month to be able to hear the scanners, to hear the teams talk about what they want to do going forward. Hey, we're moving at this pace with old tires. Why don't we just put on left sides and go forward and see what we can do with just left sides? Their strategies were amazing. And the one thing I took away was all 3 Penske teams took big gambles in this race to gain track position, to gain, just be able to punch their tickets to the playoffs. Obviously, Keselowski with a win and Logano with a win, there was no worries. But Ryan Blaney, he made it in on points, but I know Ryan Blaney wanted that win just as well. In the 12 team, to listen to their scanner and to hear the strategies they were going through, the fact that Ryan Blaney wasn't higher than he was at the finish of this race was, to me, a travesty, because they were working that pitch strategy so well in this race. So we might as well break down the finishing order. We'll go into the picks and then the points, and then I have a surprise couple questions for you before we talk about Las Vegas.
All right, so going to the results, you have Brad Keselowski winning the race. You have Eric Jones coming in second, surprisingly. You have
fantastic for him. Fantastic.
Great run for him, no question about it. Denny Hamlin comes home in third, Kevin Harvick in fourth, Clint Bowyer rounds out the top 5. Kurt Busch in 6th, Jamie McMurray in 7th, Kyle Busch in 8th, who was the regular season finale champion or so with the participation trophies.
Yay.
Paul Menard comes home in 9th. Ryan Newman rounds out the top 10. Ryan Blaney 11th. Matt Kenseth, and if I'm reading this right, Matt Kenseth ended up winning stage 2.
Yes.
Which I was
didn't see
quite
that coming.
surprised by that.
I actually put up a live video on our page, on the C&J Speedway Review Facebook page. Did not see it coming. Once again, that was pitch strategy.
Yeah.
It was great to see Matt Kenseth cross that yard of bricks right there, and it just brought back so many memories. I have a couple friends who are huge Matt Kenseth fans who, as soon as I made the video and then I got off the live feed, I texted them. I'm like, how cool was that to watch? And good for him. And it shows what we said when they said, hey, Matt Kenseth's going to come in. He's going to do a bunch. I said, he's going to win something. I would hope it would have been a race, but I'll take a stage. At this point, it proves that we were right. Everybody else was wrong.
Right. I would take a stage 2, and for Kenseth to come home 12th, great run for that 6 team. So Joey Logano comes home 13th, Kyle Larson 14th, Chase Elliott 15th, Jimmy Johnson 16th, Daniel Suarez 18th, William Byron 19th, Regan Smith 20th, Ty Dillon 21st, Austin Dillon 22nd, Eric Almirola 23rd, David Reagan 24th. Let's see, Reed Sorensen 28th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 34th, Matt DiBenedetto 36th, AJ Allmendinger 37th, Bubba Wallace 38th, and Martin Truex Jr. rounds out 40th.
Yeah. Sorry, Chelsea. Sorry, Emma.
Yeah.
My daughter. That's your guy, man. But Bubba Wallace took a big hit, and he was running well. He was in the top 15 when that crash happened.
Yeah.
Bad day for him. Let's run through the picks. Corey, I'm going to give you the option again. Do you want you first or me first?
How about me first this time?
All right. Corey took Martin Truex Jr. as his lock. He finished 40th. He took Joey Logano as his sleeper. He finished 13th. And he took Paul Menard as his hopeful. He finished 9th. You add that up, you get a total of 62. You divide that by 3, and you get a total of 20.3. Not a bad run. But Chris took Kyle Larson as his lock. He finished 14th. I took Ryan Newman as my sleeper. He finished 10th. And I took Jimmy Johnson, against my better judgment, as my hopeful. He finished 16th. You add that up, you get a total of 40. You divide that by 3. My finish was 13.3 on a bunch of guys that I really didn't have a lot of faith in. Need a win. Last call Jones was what I said last week. And here they are. They all finished 10, 14, 16. To be honest, you had the best pick of all in Paul Menard, which was on my list. Remember last week I said I crossed out 2 times. Yep. I had Paul Menard. I had Jamie McMurray. I settled for Ryan Newman. But it would have only been a difference of 0.6 had I kept Menard. So I'm the grand champion of the world. All shall hail. Never doubt me ever, ever, ever in the history of ever until next week, because we all know I'm going to blow the skunk next week. But let's talk about the points. The points are reset, and Kyle Busch, by virtue of not just the wins, he has 6 wins to Harvick's 7. But overall points, takes the regular series championship. We've reset the points. Tell them about the reset points.
Okay, so as from right now, let's see. Let me just.
Oh, you are so fired for not having this up and ready to go.
I know, this is my bad.
I know.
But okay, so as of right now, Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, they are tied for the points lead heading into the playoffs this weekend. So, as my knowledge, so Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch are tied for the points lead. Martin Truex Jr. will start the playoffs in 15th as the defending series champion. Brad Keselowski will start 31 points back. Clint Bowyer 35. Joey Logano 36, also tied with Kurt Busch for 36 points behind. Chase Elliott 42. Ryan Blaney 43. Eric Jones, 45, tied with Austin Dillon and Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin, 47 points behind. Eric Almirola, 49 points behind. And Jimmy Johnson and Alex Bowman will both start 50 points behind in 15th and 16th.
Okay. Having said that, and you ran through it very well, thank you. You're a fantastic addition to this show, even though it's my show. No, it's not. I'm kidding. I have to ask you,
All right.
We have three races in this round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm putting you on the spot. Who are the first four drivers out of the first round,
All
in
right.
your opinion?
Okay, so my first four. Well, my first four is definitely going to be Jimmy Johnson, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, and Austin Dillon.
Okay, I got Johnson, Bowman, Hamlin, and who else?
Austin Dillon.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a question because these picks are very similar to mine to an extent. Why Hamlin?
See, I think with him, um, like he has been running good this season, but I pretty much learned that in the playoffs, like anything can happen. So I'm kind of saying like he might be the first one out because I just look at him this year, like he hasn't really like showed me like anything this season. I mean, yeah, of course he almost won the race at Indy this past Sunday, but I just look at it, I'm thinking, he's definitely. I'd probably say, in my opinion, he'll be the first one out, no question about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to read through my picks, and the first three are going to mirror three of yours.
Yeah.
I have Jimmy Johnson, Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon. But my fourth pick, because of the unfortunate events that keep befalling this guy, last year he was money. This year, not so much. Kyle Larson is going to be amongst the first four to be bounced out of the playoffs. And I say that not because I don't like Kyle Larson. I think the world of Kyle Larson. But the bad luck continues for that young man.
Yeah.
And until the 40, oh, good granny. Until the 42 team can figure out what to do to fix their woes, Kyle Larson's just a guy driving in a circle, not knowing what his fate's going to be.
Right.
Okay, so the second question. Playoffs start this coming week. Who is your early pick to take home the trophy in Miami?
This one was a little bit of a tough one, but if I'd had to pick one right now, I'd have to say Harvick.
Well, thankfully, you're not fired because I also chose Kevin Harvick.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue with the 7 wins, but you go beyond the wins. He's finding a way to stay one step ahead of the monster. And I'm not saying this to be anti-Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch is that guy. He's like nipping on the heels. He's always there. One has 7 wins. One has 6 wins. If you count the All-Star race, Harvick has 8 wins.
Yeah.
But Busch is right there. What I find funny is that when Harvick has an issue, Busch has an issue. When Busch has an issue, Harvick has 0 issue and he drives to a top 10.
Right.
It's about keeping up with the Joneses. Harvick's doing that better than anybody this season. I think that if you look at it objectively, and I know people are going to say, oh, well, Chris, you're a shill. You're a Harvick guy. There's Harvick gimmicks behind you. You wear Kevin Harvick hats. You do all it. Your gimmick cooler has a 4 on it. I got to look at this objectively. This is a season I haven't seen since, what year was it? 97 or 98? The Jeff Gordon domination tour.
Yeah.
It was just, I've not, go ahead.
Yeah, 98 was when Gordon won 13, and then 97 he won 10.
Yes, and if you go back to 96, which is another reason I'm a big fan of this playoff, Gordon won 9 races, but Terry Labonte, he have 2 wins and a treasure trove of top 5s, top 10s, wins the championship. You can go back to Matt Kenseth's victory, where he has 1 win and a treasure trove of top 5, top 10.
Mm-hmm.
The playoffs are amazing. The playoffs are good for this sport. One thing I want to mention, despite the rainout, when I watched Indianapolis, both series,
yeah,
sparsely populated stands. But when we looked at Darlington packed to the rafters, butthole to elbow. There wasn't a seat to be seen. You didn't see silver. You didn't see whatever color the stands were. You saw people. Real quick, before we get into next week's picks, what does NASCAR have to do to bring the fans back? What is Darlington doing right that maybe Martinsville, New Hampshire, et cetera, so forth? I used to go to races at Richmond. I still go to New Hampshire, Charlotte,
Yeah.
Darlington, Dover, and there wasn't a seat to be seen. Now you go to a race and it's 3/4 full. What is the sport doing wrong? What is the governing body doing wrong? How do we bring the fans back?
I would probably say, and I've seen this a lot too. You hardly don't even see anybody in the stands because I think if you look at it, people just can't afford the airfare, travel, and because when they do the whole NASCAR race tour thing, whatever it is, yeah, it's going to be expensive, no question about it. But I would say that if you can do a NASCAR tour ticket, whatever it is, that could be cheap for everybody. Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with that. When I look at places like New Hampshire Motor Speedway, who has fantastic price packages for families, the tickets are not that expensive. Dover, same thing. Richmond, same thing. But there are other tracks where we talked about it at the early Vegas race back in March, half full.
Yeah.
What is Vegas doing wrong? Are they pricing out the audience? Because the action was fantastic. That race was amazing. Well, of course, if you wore number 4 on your hat like I do, that race was amazing.
Yeah.
But Vegas is always a fun race. What are they doing wrong? Are they pricing out the audience?
I would probably say, in my opinion, I'd probably say no.
Okay, fair enough. So now we move on. We have a full series on tap this weekend. Las Vegas, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Corey, take us through the weekend of racing.
So, first of the 3 races on Friday, we will have the Camping World Truck Series
Yay!
World of Westgate 200. It will be on 9 o'clock Eastern Time on FS1. You could also catch it on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90, and, of course, the Motor Racing Network.
The voice of NASCAR.
Will be there.
Yes!
Which I'm really excited about. Yes.
Back in business, baby.
So I'm looking on the entry list, and let's see. We have Cody Coughlin. We have Jordan Anderson, Todd Gilliland in the 4 truck. John Hunter Nemechek's going to be driving the 8 this weekend. Then you have Myatt Snyder. You have Brett Moffitt. You have Bola Mastis, Noah Gragson, Johnny Sauter, Austin Wayne Self, Justin Haley, who now has already advanced to the round of 6 with his win a couple weeks ago in Canada. Timothy Peters is back in the 25 truck for GMS Racing after a second straight race. Austin Terrio is going to be in the 30 truck. J.J. Yaley, T.J. Bell, Ben Rhodes, Justin Fontaine, Riley Herbst is going to be in the 46 truck. Ross Chastain will be in the 49 truck. Brandon Jones will be in the 51. Stuart Friesen, Chris Eggleston, Joe Nemechek, Matt Crafton, Jesse Little, and last but not least, playoff driver Grant Infinger.
Okay. So when I was looking at this, and I told you some weeks ago, when the playoffs start, I'm only going with playoff drivers. This was tough, but I'm going to go with Todd Gilliland as my lock.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to be a track that caters to his style of driving. And my sleeper is going to be Brett Moffitt. Nothing more to say. Brett Moffitt, winning, needs a full-time sponsor. This is a guy that I can see next year on the Xfinity Series if they see fit to bring him up to the next level. If not, I'm saying it now. September 13th. Is today the 13th? Am I doing that right?
Yes.
Well, September 13th, I'm saying it now. If Brett Moffitt doesn't move up, Brett Moffitt is your 2019 Truck Series champion. Boom. Mark it down.
No question about that.
All right.
So my lock for this weekend, this one is pretty much an easy one. So my lock has definitely got to be Johnny Sauter because you just look at this team, they've been dominant on the mile and a half this year. They almost won at Vegas back in March. They finished runner-up. The last mile and a half race they won was at Texas back in June. So I thought, okay, this is basically Johnny Sauter's championship to lose as of right now because if you look at all the tracks that are coming up, I could literally see Sauter winning at all of them. Because if you look at it, Vegas, he knows how to win on the mile and a half. Talladega, anything could happen, and he's already won at Daytona twice. So we already know he's a good super speedway racer. Then you got Martinsville, who I probably say, in my opinion, is one of the best when it comes to short tracks. Texas, he's won a couple times. Phoenix, he won in November of last year. So I just look at it, I really think this is going to be Sauter's race to lose. And, it wouldn't really surprise me if that 21 car goes to victory lane on Friday. Now, my sleeper, I'm going to have to go with Stuart Friesen because, yet again, this is also a team that has also run good when it comes to the mile and a halves as well. I know he finished second a couple weeks ago at Bristol, so I'm thinking to myself, this could be the weekend where the 52 truck goes to victory lane, and I would be thrilled if Friesen ends up winning.
Of course, it just cements his standing in that series, and it moves him forward. He already has a win, doesn't he?
No.
Oh, no. Wow. Okay. See, I don't pay attention. I'm old guy Jones. Early onset Alzheimer's, whatever. I don't care. Johnny Sauter, all those stats you just brought up, where he has wins or fantastic runs at all of the tracks going forward, I'm gonna make you a bet right now.
Okay.
It's not a bet. It's just basically I'm gonna challenge your thoughts on Johnny Sauter.
Okay.
If for some reason, and it is as unlikely as seeing the Cincinnati Bengals winning the Super Bowl this year, if Johnny Sauter finishes top 5 in every race in the playoffs going forward, I will wear a Red Sox hat every episode that we do between the end of the season and Daytona.
That's awesome. I'd love to see that. Even though you're a Yankee guy,
I know you would.
That's gonna be a tough one for you, but
I did it once for a fundraiser on the Loki and Jabroni show. I can do it again. It won't make me feel good, but it is what it is. But all those stats you brought up about Johnny Sauter, this track, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If he can top 5 every track from here until the end of the season, I will wear a Red Sox hat throughout the off season when we do every other week.
Okay, that sounds like a deal.
All right, done and done. Let's talk about the Xfinity Series coming up.
All right, so Saturday, and this one's going to be the late one. So Saturday we have the DC Solar 300 for the Xfinity Series, 5 o'clock Eastern Time on Saturday on NBCSN. You can stream it live on the NBC Sports app. And then, of course, we have PRN, the Performance Racing Network, covering the race this weekend. Yeah, unfortunately. Yes.
It breaks my heart. MRN is the voice of NASCAR. You hear it every single week on the show, how much I love it. And PRN is just, oh my, I don't know how to put it. They're like that other radio station in your town that plays the soft jazz hits of the 70s and 80s. They're garbage.
Yeah.
MRN, every race, let's make it happen.
Definitely. So I'm looking on the entry list, and it appears there are no Cup drivers for this weekend because the rule is that I think since it's the Xfinity regular season finale, I don't think the Cup drivers are allowed to race in the regular season finale and the playoffs as well. So looking at the full entry list, we have Cole Custer in the 00. We have Elliott Sadler. We have Matt Tiff. Shane Lee is going to be in the 3 car. We have Landon Castle in the 4. So I guess he's not so much Cup driver, but, he's kind of part-timer right now. We have Michael Annett. We have Justin Allgaier, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Truex, BJ McLeod, Ryan Reed, Ryan Preece in the 18. You have Brandon Jones, Christopher Bell in the 20. You have Daniel Hemrick. Austin Cindric will be in the 22. Spencer Gallagher is in the 23 again. Joey Gase, Alex LeBay, J.J. Yaley, Ryan Sieg, Chad Fincham. And, of course, our all-time favorite, who was back in the 42 car this weekend, is definitely Ross Chastain himself. And then...
The man of the hour, the tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey, dump Kevin Harvick, piss on your territory and let him know you're in his house. He's in your house.
Oh, yeah. except Harvick's not in the field this weekend.
Exactly, but Ross Chastain has my respect.
Mine too. But
Good.
let's see. Jeremy Clements, you have Chase Briscoe in the 60. You have Cole Rouse in the 78. And then, of course, you have Jeff Green.
Oh, God. Well, we know who's finished 40th.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you come out first. I want your lock and your sleeper. Hit it, Corey.
Okay, so my lock for this weekend, and this one was kind of an easy one for me. But, so my lock this weekend, I'm going to go with Ross Chastain in the 42 because I just look at it, second race of the 3 races in the 42 car, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's going to win at either this race this weekend or Richmond next Friday because A, we have no Cup drivers, B, 42 cars already won at Las Vegas back in March with Kyle Larson, so it wouldn't really surprise me if the 42 car could sweep both races this season. And I just look at it, Chastain, he's having a really good ride so far, especially with Chip Ganassi, and it wouldn't really surprise me if he could win not only one, but if he could win 2 races, that'd be incredible. Now, my sleeper, I'm going to have to go with Daniel Hemrick because this is going to be the last race before the playoffs. I really want to see this 21 team do something. If they can get a win, great. If they can't, but still.
I'm sorry, say that again. Who was it?
Daniel Hemrick.
Okay, I somehow my audio dropped. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So reason why I'm picking Daniel Hemrick, I really want to see something out of this 21 team. If they can get a win before the playoffs, great. If not, but can still manage to get a top 5, I'd be okay with it. But this is pretty much a team that's been running consistent all year, that's been finishing in 3rd in the top 5. It's been running up near the front most of the races this season, and this is going to be one of my drivers that I'm picking for the championship for in November. So hopefully, Hemrick can have a good run, especially, with South Point being the sponsor of the race on Sunday. I'm hoping that team can get some really good momentum heading forward.
Okay, fantastic. I'm taking Elliott Sadler as my lock. Needs, again, to cement himself. We already know that Elliott Sadler is a championship caliber driver. We already know that Elliott Sadler is someone you need to watch for every single week. But Elliott Sadler needs that W to really pound the matter home. So I'm taking Elliott Sadler as my lock. As I mentioned earlier, my sleeper is going to be Austin Cindric because that's a guy, once again, that needs a win worse than Elliott Sadler. He is a guy that is in a very precarious position. There are a lot of guys underneath him who have the stuff, the insides, the intestinal fortitude that are going to come to the front and are going to challenge for that win. Cindric needs to pound the hammer down and say, I am for real. I am a contender. I am someone you need to watch out for. So I'm hoping against hope that Austin Cindric is going to prove me right and everybody else wrong, punch his ticket, and go to the playoffs in a good spot. Okay, so we move along. Sunday, $5 buys you the whole seat, but you'll only use the edge, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Las Vegas race. Corey, walk us through.
All right, so Sunday we have the South Point 400 for the first race in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. 3 o'clock Eastern Time on NBCSN. You can stream it live on the NBC Sports app. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, PRM, the Performance Racing Network, will be covering the race on Sunday.
No. PRN, stop. I'm done. I can't talk about this anymore. My eye is starting to twitch. Go ahead, Corey.
All right, so looking at the entry list, you have Jamie McMurray, you have Brad Keselowski, Austin Dillon, you have Kevin Harvick, Trevor Bayne, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ty Dillon, Clint Boyer, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Paul Menard, Joey Logano, William Byron, Ryan Newman, Matt Benedetto, Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher, David Reagan, Kurt Busch, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, AJ Allmendinger, Jimmy Johnson, Corey LaJoie, Martin Truex Jr., Alex Bowman, Regan Smith, who was pretty much announced today that I guess Regan is going to be running another 3 races, subbing for Casey Kane because right now he has complications of dehydration and rapid heartbeat. And I think this was right after the Darlington race a couple of weeks ago when that happened. And pretty much, for those of you guys that don't know, this kind of forced him to retire because I think he's had that, I think, most of his career. And but anyways, we wish Casey Kane the best, and we hope that he can come back soon and hopefully he can run before the season comes out. And I just look at Casey Kane. He's still young, and I still think he can. He can still race for like probably the next 5 years or so. I mean, he's in good shape. There's no question about it. But to have this, yeah, it was disappointing, but but Casey, get well, my friend, and we hope to see you on the track soon.
Amen to that, my friend.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I told you guys at the beginning of the playoffs I was going championship contenders only for my picks. I'm calling this one 1.5 Mile Jones. And when I go for my lock, I look back at the last Vegas race, and no offense, I'm letting my flag fly high. My lock is Kevin Harvick. My sleeper, man, as much as I just talked a bunch of junk on this guy, I really have to look at Kyle Larson as my sleeper, and I picked Kyle Larson as my sleeper. This is a guy that needs to have a statement race.
Yeah.
And he has to find a way to avoid trouble. I know engine issues. I know crashes that you didn't start but you got tied up in. Those are things you can't avoid. There are a lot of things that Kyle Larson could avoid this season that he didn't avoid, yet there he is in the championship 16. So I'm going to put Kyle Larson as my sleeper. My hopeful for no other reason than momentum. It's hard to argue against 2 races in a row, and if he can make it 3 in a row, like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch have done this season, my hopeful is going to be Brad Keselowski, not just because of my brother from another mother, Mark Azarju, is a big Brad Keselowski fan, not just because my beer of choice is Miller Lite, not just because I'm a huge Blue Deuce fan. I think Brad Keselowski, if you're going to You've made your statement. You won, you punch your ticket. Then you won again. You catapulted yourself to, 4th in the playoff standings? So now this is your chance, Brad Keselowski, to say, I'm for real. Brad Keselowski is my hopeful. Corey, your picks, sir.
All right. So my lock for this weekend, I'm definitely going to have to go with Kyle Busch because, he's another guy that has run really well when it comes to the mile and a half this year.
Well, thanks for joining us. Corey's fired, and he'll never be back on the air again. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
All right. So anyways, he's a hometown favorite. He's won at Vegas before, and this is also going to be another guy that you're also going to have to watch out for in the playoffs as well. And, quite frankly, I think it's just going to come down between Harvick and Kyle Busch for the championship this year. I mean, there's just no question about it at this point. My sleeper, I'm going to have to go with Eric Almirola because he's another guy who really impressed me this year in a few races. I know Chicago, he ended up winning a stage. New Hampshire, he led most of the race. Could have had the shot to win if he hadn't had that bad pit stop right at the end. But he managed to get a good run. So Eric Almirola is going to be my sleeper. I really want to see what this 10 car can do. And this is going to be a team that I think is going to be fun to watch on the mile and a halves. And he's probably going to be he's going to be the next Stuart Haas guy that'll definitely get a win before the season's out, no question. And my hopeful, I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney because even though he didn't get a win in the regular season, especially for Penske, I think this is going to be the start in the playoffs that Blaney's going to get that first win. Hopefully, can get him all the way up to the championship 4 because last year he went to the round of 8 when he was with the Wood brothers and almost went to the championship 4. But I think if you look at it, I really think right now it's just going to come down between Gibbs, Stuart Haas, and now possibly Penske.
I can't argue with that. Not at all. Now, I'm going to throw out the question of the week because something you said during your picks kind of sparked the interest for me. You said it's a Busch Harvick world.
Yeah.
However you put it, it's a Busch Harvick championship run. We both have Kevin Harvick as our early favorite to win the championship. If in the event that Busch and Harvick find themselves on the outside looking in going into Miami, who is the one driver you see that can spoil the party and win the championship?
I would probably say besides Kyle Busch and Harvick, I would have to go Keselowski.
Oh wow! I just right there on my paper, I have Brad Keselowski written down. He's the guy. He's that guy. He's that Ryan Newman of the last couple of years who's laying in the weeds and he's
Yeah.
trying to get to the front. Fantastic. And that's going to be the question of the week. Stop yawning, Corey. I know I'm boring. I apologize, but one of us will put this on the Facebook. It'll probably be me when we're done. That's the question of the week. If you have another driver in that round of 16 that you think if Busch, Kyle, or Harvick, Kevin, can find themselves on the outside looking in, who's going to spoil the party? That's the question of the week. We will read the best answer next week right here on the C&J Speedway Review. Corey, do you have anything to pimp, push, or otherwise give to the people other than the fact that you love your woman?
As a side of the fact that she's watching this right now,
Don't
and I
do
can
it.
just tell,
Don't do it.
I can just tell that I love her so much.
Oh my God bless America. This is why I drink, people. Corey Huffnagel makes me drink.
Aw, don't say that.
I'm kidding.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
So anyways,
Yeah.
so make sure you follow us on the C&J Speedway Review on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell on the right side of the screen. You'll get notifications on when we go live and when we're on the air. And not to mention when we upload our episodes every week or so. So make sure you guys follow us. We are also on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are at CJ_Speedway. We are at Instagram. We are at CJ Speedway. And I also want to give a little bit of a thoughts and prayers to everybody right now that is in the path of Hurricane Florence that is going to be coming into the Carolinas, I think early tomorrow morning into Friday. So if anybody is watching this right now that has evacuated, you did the right thing. And if there are people that are hunkered down that are going to be riding out to the storm, pretty much our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody right now. And hopefully, there's no fatalities because, just watching this storm has just been, it's been crazy and so forth. And I also want to give a shout out to both Charlotte Motor Speedway and Talladega Super Speedway because they are opening up their racetracks to any of the people that have evacuated and so forth. So they will be allowed to use their campgrounds, their showers, everything else, and so forth until the storm is passed and so forth. But yeah, it's a crazy storm from what I'm hearing, and all I can just say is hopefully everybody can ride out of it.
To all my friends down in that area, again, get to safety. Do what you have to do. Your life is more important than your house. Your life is more important than a lot of the things that you have the potential to lose in this storm. So Corey's correct. We're praying for you. Our full heart and prayer goes out to all of you. I did it once. I'm going to do it again. I just can't get over this. How exciting this is for the network, for C&J Speedway Review, Logan Jabroni Show, etc., so forth. This is the September 10th issue of Sports Illustrated. If you've made it this far into the episode, you've heard this once, but if you haven't, you're going to hear it again. If you turn to, what page is this? It doesn't matter. You can get this online, too. Everything's online now. This is an article called Fighting Back. These three young ladies, Taekwondo specialists, who were sexually violated by a coach. Mandy Maloon, next week, Tuesday, September 18th. Our show, the Logan Jabroni Show, starts at 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m. Mandy Maloon is going to call in 33-11 as a Taekwondo fighter. 1 world championship, 1 World Cup, 1 Continental Championship, 3 Open Tournament wins, 19-time medalist, Mandy Malone, is coming on the show. I couldn't be more excited. What a fantastic human being, telling her story. And if you have young ladies in your life, I know that the Loki and Jabroni show, as opposed to this show, is a little bit vulgar at times. I know that we can get a little bit rowdy at times. No, no offense to you and your rowdy gimmick that you do
Right.
on your go-karting thing, and I'll get to that in a second. But this is an episode that if you have a young lady who is an athlete in your life, very much needs to listen to. I just spoke to Mandy via Facebook message earlier today, and she is ready. She is all in, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that we do on all of these shows to bring you quality entertainment. And I'm still working on that one particular guy that I've been working on for weeks. And unfortunately, it's going to be in the off season, but we're going to have, hopefully, if everything works out right, an Xfinity driver right here on the Google Hangouts, YouTube channel Jones. For you guys on the audio only, I'm working this, man, and we're going to have him. And he's a local.
Yeah.
So if that gives you a hint, maybe it gives you a hint. Local to us, Corey and I. If you're listening to this in California right now, you're thinking, oh, local? No, stop. You'll hurt yourself. Just lay down, get on the pillow, whatever. Having said that, this is going to be, in my opinion, the most exciting playoffs on all 3 series that we've seen in many, many, many years. 2014 was exciting. 2016 was exciting. But 2018 is going to be, in my opinion, this is going to eclipse all of the playoffs since the playoffs started with the chase back in 2004. This is going to be the most exciting playoff chase, gimmick, yada, yada. It's already shaping up to be fantastic. And we talked about our question. We talked about if Busch and Harvick fall out, who's going to spoil the party. We both picked Keselowski. Corey, if Keselowski is our lock, who is your sleeper to spoil the party?
All right, so my sleeper to spoil the party, that one would definitely have to go to. All right, so my sleeper, that one's going to have to go to Ryan Blaney.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I went different. I went Joey Logano. There's something about these fall races, and we've seen the 22 go to victory lane in the fall races a number of times. Blaney, Logano, same. Wow, just fantastic. And for this community where I live, and I work in Middletown, which is where Joey Logano hails from, it's not a homer pick. You guys know I'm not a big Joey Logano fan, but he's a guy I can see that would rise up and be that snake in the grass, much like we talked about Keselowski. But Blaney, Logano, Keselowski, it's funny how all our picks are Penske.
Yeah.
Just strange. Just absolutely strange. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the C&J Speedway Review. He is Corey Huffnagel. I am Chris Burns. We are here for you every single week during the regular season, and in the off season, we're here every other week. Hey, Corey.
What's up?
How was the Patriots game this weekend?
Well, the Patriots, they squeaked in a win. Besides the fact that one of our guys, Jeremy Hill, is out for the season because of the ACL.
Football doesn't exist. It doesn't matter.
But anyways, Patriots, they had a good win this weekend. Now we're in Jacksonville on Sunday, so yeah. So far, starting off 1-0, it's good, and it's going to be interesting for like the next 16 weeks.
My team did not have such a great weekend. We started Thursday night. We were the season opener. The Falcons lost a tough one to Philadelphia. We took the world champions to the limit. And what I'm going to say here, I didn't say it on Loki and Jabroni last night, but I'll say it here. When you have 4 opportunities in the red zone, and you have 4 scoring opportunities when you've already figured out that the middle of the defensive line is weak and you can run right through it, Why didn't you do it? When you figure out that there are more receivers than Julio effing Jones, why don't you throw to them? The Falcons blew that game, and I have no issue saying that. I'm objective. The Falcons blew that game. They could have beaten Philadelphia, but it is what it is. We go to Carolina next weekend. You have Jacksonville next weekend. Tough games, both on the see where the season plays out. And for what it's worth, congratulations, New England Patriot fan.
And your Falcons, they're in Carolina this weekend, right?
Yes.
And I think they might have to go to a different stadium since the storm's coming, I think, on Friday, and it's not going to be out till like after Saturday, I think.
What the early report is that they're talking about moving it to Pittsburgh Stadium.
Okay.
Which is Heinz Field, about 170 miles west. So we'll see what happens. If it's one of those things where you give up your bye week and you have to go back and play the thing, I know both teams, Carolina and Atlanta, don't have the same bye week, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But if it happens, there is a possibility, from what I've read on MSN.com, that they can move it south to the Georgia Dome, and the game later in December will be moved from Atlanta to Carolina.
Right.
So there's a lot of options. But Philadelphia this weekend will move to Heinz Field if the storm goes up the East Coast.
Right.
There's a lot of things that can happen, but for Atlanta fan like me, I'm more interested in lives. I'm more interested. I don't care if I turn on my TV and they say, the game's canceled.
Right.
Let's make sure that the greater good is done.
And then I also heard, I guess, the Boston College Wake Forest game. So they were supposed to start tomorrow night at 7:30, but I guess now the game's been moved to 5:30.
Good.
So
good. Because, hey, we're recording here on the East Coast. They're projecting that this storm is going to hit us sometime Saturday or Sunday. Whether or not I buy it, I don't know. The weather changes. If you watch Channel 3 News here in Connecticut, Scott Haney's a liar. He never predicts the weather correctly. Doesn't matter. Let's worry about the lives in the whole Eastern Seaboard with Hurricane Florence coming in and potentially wreaking havoc on this entire region.
Okay.
So for Corey, I'm Chris. Producer Eddie focuses behind the scenes. Thank you once again for joining us. We will talk to you next week with the results of the Las Vegas races. And where do we go next? We'll find out.
That's right.
She was afraid to come out of the water, and if you are my